Today, we're not talking about myths or legends. We're treating this as an archaeological cold case, and we're joining the hunt for one of history's greatest mysteries, the lost Ark of the Covenant.
Think about it. In 587 BC, this priceless, sacred object just vanishes from the historical record. For an archaeologist, this isn't about faith. It's about a mystery, and it's about following the cold, hard evidence.
Now, to solve any cold case, you have to know exactly what you're looking for. You need a clear description of what's missing. So, what was the Ark of the Covenant, really? What's pretty amazing is that the book of Exodus gives us what is essentially a blueprint. It says the Ark was 2.5 cubits long by 1.5 cubits wide and high. So, in terms we'd understand today, that's roughly 52 by 31 inches. We're talking about a substantial and very real object here.
And listen, this was no simple wooden box. The instructions were incredibly specific. It had a core of acacia wood, but it was completely covered, inside and out, with pure gold. It had these gold rings for carrying poles and was topped with a solid gold lid with 2 sculpted cherubim. And its whole purpose? To house the stone tablets of the 10 Commandments. For nearly 400 years, this incredible object was the absolute centerpiece of religious life in Jerusalem's most sacred temple. And then, in the year 587 BC, it just disappears from the pages of history.
For centuries, the Ark sat in the most sacred part of the temple, a room called the Holy of Holies. But that long period of stability came to a really violent end when the Babylonian army laid siege to the city for 30 brutal months and then destroyed it. And this is the central clue of our mystery. The Babylonians were fantastic record keepers. We have actual lists of the items they plundered from the temple: gold, silver, bronze vessels, you name it. But the most valuable, the most sacred object of them all, the Ark, is completely, conspicuously absent from every single record.
So, if the Babylonians didn't take it, that really only leaves one strong possibility, right? The priests must have hidden it before the temple fell. But how could they possibly have pulled that off? For centuries, that idea just seemed impossible. I mean, picture it. The city is completely surrounded. It's under siege. How on earth could you smuggle anything out, let alone a big, heavy golden chest? It would have been unthinkable. But then, in 2007, an archaeological dig changed literally everything. A team found this massive underground tunnel, basically an ancient escape hatch that ran directly from the Temple Mount right under the city walls. And we're not talking about some tiny crawl space. This thing had walls 10 feet high. It was more than big enough to move the Ark completely undetected. Okay, so now we have a possible escape route, but a tunnel has to lead somewhere. And the answer to where it might have led brings us to our next piece of evidence, an artifact that's unlike anything else in the world.
You've probably heard of the Dead Sea Scrolls. Well, among the thousands they found, one was a total outlier. Discovered back in 1952, it wasn't written on parchment. It was etched onto pure copper. And it wasn't scripture. It was a list, a treasure map, detailing 64 different locations where huge amounts of temple treasures were hidden. And the difference is just, it's stark. While all the other scrolls are telling stories about the past, the copper scroll gives you these practical, almost cryptic directions, like in the salt pit under the steps. This wasn't a story. This was a set of instructions. So, decades later, a former fire investigator named Jim Barfield comes along, and he approaches this ancient scroll with a modern mindset. He decided to treat it not as some legend, but as a literal set of clues to a crime scene. And Barfield was methodical. He went right to Qumran, near where the scroll was found. The scroll mentions silver vessels hidden at the steps, 40 cubits long. Well, Barfield found a set of steps measuring that exact length. It describes a hoard of gold in a ruined courtyard with a cistern. He found that too. And finally, it pointed to a main treasure on a hill of Cocklet, and wouldn't you know it, he identified a nearby hill with a very unusual sealed cave. But here's the real kicker, the breakthrough moment. When he mapped these 3 locations, he discovered they formed a perfect, dead straight line. This wasn't just a random list of hiding spots. It was a deliberately plotted path. The first 2 locations were like arrows, pointing him directly to the final prize. So Barfield had his map. He had a location. He had a motive. But he still needed physical proof that something was actually inside that sealed cave.
He actually got a sample of the material that was sealing the cave and sent it off for analysis. The results that came back were just stunning. It was man-made mortar, and the formula dated it directly to the time the Ark disappeared. This means that cave was intentionally sealed by human hands over 2,500 years ago. Now, before we get to the final piece of this puzzle, I want you to remember a number: 33 tons. That is the incredible amount of gold the Copper Scroll claims is hidden back at location number 2, the cistern. Barfield used this as a baseline for his next test. And this was the climax of his whole investigation. He brought an industrial-grade metal detector to these sites. Over location number 2, where the scroll claimed 33 tons of gold were buried, the readings went completely off the charts. But when he scanned location number 3, the sealed cave, the readings were 5 times stronger. So, let's just lay it all out. We have a map, a physical trail that actually matches the map, a cave sealed with ancient mortar from the exact right time period, and metal detector readings that suggest a hoard of treasure vastly larger than 33 tons of gold. And yet, for a lot of complex political and religious reasons, that final step, the excavation, has never been authorized. The entire archaeological trail has led us, step by step, right to the entrance of a sealed cave. The clues have been followed, the evidence has been gathered, and it leaves us right here with this one final provocative question. What if, after 2,500 years, the Ark is really there?